we are going to talk about Web3 and actually talk about whether there are any real world use cases of Web3 that we could see being leveraged and built on, especially in the years to come. Now, so far, whatever we have heard about Web3, a lot of people just associate Web3 with crypto, with cryptography. And when you're thinking about crypto, the first thing that comes to your mind is Bitcoin. And if you have been following Bitcoin, you either love it or you hate it. Right? It's always one of the two extremes. And for a lot of people, Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, they represent just high risk investment assets, right? It's a high risk investment asset class. And most of the people, when they're thinking about Web3, they're thinking about crypto, they're thinking about cryptocurrencies, because of which all what they're thinking about is speculation. That's 99% of the people. But the field of cryptography and decentralization, as we know it, cryptography especially, has been around for a very long time. And what blockchain has done is take that field of cryptography and create an infrastructure layer on top of which today you can build decentralized applications. So we are going to talk about the promise of decentralization and what does that mean for us and why is that needed, right? And as we all know, we all have social media accounts these days, right? We know that whenever you're doing that, you're paying an entity that is a centralized entity to host that data for you. And if for whatever reason, and it could be a flag, like on Squarespace, somebody, you get like too many spam complaints, someone just, is running a bot, then they will shut you down till they can investigate, right? And not to say that centralized entities are bad, but centralization, of course, comes with its own set of challenges. Those challenges mainly being that they may not be accessible and available to everyone. When Bitcoin was originally brought out in 2008, if you all remember, the entire world was reeling from a recession, right? We had the banking bubble burst. And if you think about it, the promise of Bitcoin and what the Bitcoin white paper offered was a decentralized banking system, a system in which you had complete transparency of where your money was, a system in which you didn't have entities like Lehman Brothers that would take your money, put them at risk in assets that you didn't know where they were at, and a system where you did not have to be a perfect customer. We are at 8 billion plus today, and 1.8 billion people across the globe are unbanked. And the reason why they're unbanked is because the banks think that they do not make good customers. They either have bad credit scores or they just do not have enough capital with them to be a worthy customer. You can all imagine that if we did not have bank accounts, we would lose access to so many opportunities, right? We wouldn't be able to receive salaries for the work that we're doing. No company, I mean, at least the companies we work with, very few of them pay in cash. Instead of being here, I would probably be at a gas station or a grocery store, doing a job in cash, right, where I get paid in cash. And that's all because the banks think I'm not worthy of being banked. So that is what decentralization really talks about. The area that I really want to focus on is AI, for the simple reason that we are right now in another AI bubble. Well, it's not necessarily a bubble. AI has had its trends throughout time. We can see that AI really started with the advent or invention of the Turing machine, which, if you guys have watched the movie, and you know what Enigma was, the machine that was used to crack the code, right? To crack encryption of the messages that were being sent during World War II. And there was no way human beings could have done it, and that's why the Turing machine was created. And it's named after its creator, Alan Turing, who was also known as the father of computers. And then it was actually a Dartmouth workshop, and that's back in 1956 when none of us were born, when the term artificial intelligence first started making its rounds. So AI has had its moments, and even though we talk about AI now with a renewed vigor, AI has been around for decades. On the other hand, decentralization has been around since 2008. So we have to give technology time to grow. And as it grows, we are going to see pros, cons, right? However, we will hopefully, the hope is that we see more pros than cons. So that's why whatever we are seeing right now, even with the scams and stuff, if you remember internet back in 1990s, or especially towards the end of 1990s, right, when the internet bubble burst, after that, if you went to any VC and mentioned the term internet, you were shown the door right then. We don't want to touch it. So this has been the evolution of AI. There have been, so back propagation is when learning, a feedback loop was introduced to AI. We talk about machine learning, etc. now, right? That feedback loop is important. So that was also back in 1986, the year when I was born. Then 97 was when IBM's AI beat the world chess champion Gary Kasparov. And those are instances like Google's AlphaGo beating Lee Sedol at, um, at another competition. I forgot which competition that was. But these are the moments where, again, AI got to a point where you could now say that, okay, AI has started to become as smart as human beings or smarter, right? And I don't think that is a question anymore. GPT-3, 175 billion parameters. And GPT-4 actually has even more than that. I think it's, and now we have models that are trained on 1.x trillion parameters. So the evolution has been nothing short of amazing. Currently, the trend that we're talking about, a decade ago in AI, the trends we were talking about were predictive modeling. So people were all looking at, oh, we can look at data and make some cool predictions. Now we are looking at transformers and generative AI. So generative AI is cool. How many of you have used ChatGPT? All of us? Yeah, right. And the T in that stands for transformer, general purpose transformer, right? And besides ChatGPT, you have some cool image generators. So GANs, as we also know them. Midjourney. Has anyone used Midjourney? Okay, I see a couple of people waving their heads. Cool. Doll-E. Yeah, so DALL-E is the equivalent of Chat GPT for images instead of text. It's actually not that great. It's getting there. Stable diffusion. The person before me, actually, the session at 1, where they were showing the Keras library, they were showing stable diffusion right then. All of these are generation models, image generation models. The thing to note here, though, is it doesn't actually create anything that is net new. Because the way transformers really work is they're looking at the data that they have and predicting what could come next. So, in all honesty, everything that's coming out of a transformer, even though it might feel new, it doesn't really today have the capability to think like an artist, for example, and come up with a completely new art style because it's always looking at what it has in its repertoire and building on top of it. So if something is not there, and honestly, even with a lot of artists now, a lot of the art is inspired, right? So it's very hard now to come up with net new art forms. But that's also true for Gen AI. So with generative AI, we have some interesting use cases. We already know about natural language processing. Chat GPT, when you're chatting with it, it does NLP in a fantastic way. And you can ask it to create a lot of stuff for you. Image generation, music generation, we have co-pilots, right? And co-pilots are probably going to be one of the most used use cases, co-pilots for coding. We also have autonomous agents. So now you could actually create an autonomous agent and tell the autonomous agent to read your emails in the morning and create a summary for you, right? So you get to know which emails you have to look at. That would save you so much time. Gen AI, cool, we have all of these tools that are great. But then we have all had questions around the ethical considerations. Remember when I was talking about image generation? So, is it fair to the artists whose images are being used by this generator, by the transformer, to create a new image without them being credited for it, right? A lot of that, I mean, you guys might have heard about lawsuits with deviant art, etc., because a lot of that data was also um, indexed and that was used in the training. How can we establish a way in which the people who are actually creating also get credited, whereas we do not stop progress? Because one of the other challenges, fun challenges right now is a lot of people are using AI to create content and they're putting that content out. And now AI is using AI generated content to train on. So that is funny because, if it has some errors, those errors are just going to get magnified. And we'll have machines becoming smarter, humans becoming dumber. More lazy. We're lazier too, right? Like, hey, if AI can do the research for you, you will probably not go and do the research, and AI may still not cover everything. And you just completely miss the joy of reading through all the papers and catching those little things that AI may not see. So here are a few ways in which generative AI can actually be complemented or augmented with Web3. So one of them is an AI-based decision making for DAOs. So how many people know what DAOs are? Now these are ways in which both complement each other. You're talking about, this particular slide is about Web3 being augmented by with AI, and then after that we'll talk about Web3 helping create governance and opportunities in the AI space. So DAOs, how many of you are familiar with DAOs? Okay, DAOs are they are decentralized autonomous organizations. So they are organizations, right, that are decentralized, which means no central entity owns them. And the keyword here is autonomous. So typically on Web3, that autonomy is achieved by way of smart contracts. Smart contracts are programs, they execute in a certain way, right? So as you said, if you have a DAO, which is like a cooperative, right? And the DAO is for, let's say, students. So students can, let's say, deposit some savings. This is just a very high level use case, right? So they are depositing some savings on chain, maybe USDC, right? Because it's a stable coin. So they're depositing some of their savings into a disaster fund, sort of, right? So let's say, there's a frat house and the students do that every month. And then when a student is in need, the student can probably apply. And if majority of the DAO members vote, then that student is able to withdraw certain amount from that disaster fund, right? And then they have to pay it back in a certain amount of time, or else they might lose their membership, or they might have to pay a fine. And all of these things can now be coded into a smart contract. The best thing about this is, because the money is being managed by a smart contract, if it is secure and there are no exploits, no person can come and just say, oh, look at all of this money that I have and let me just take it and walk away with it, right? So what DAOs enable you to do is, again, decentralized, so no central people holding custody about it, and autonomy. The autonomous part is important. AI can take that to a completely new level now, right? Because the autonomy can be managed by an AI agent. AI also has biases, so those are things that we can talk about later on. But with the right mix of an AI model and your DAOs, you can have decision making that's being powered with AI. Without emotion, yes, that's important. The other two use cases you've probably, like dynamic NFTs in the metaverse, not just NFTs. A lot of the NFTs, there are 3D NFTs. You all know about NFTs, big craze, right? And many of them just
and like art forms, stuff like that.
Non-fungible token. And you're right, a lot of it in 2020s when you heard about it was for art, but the technology itself is used to represent anything that is unique. So technically you and I are also NFTs in a way, because there's just one of us, right? Yeah, we are NFTs in a way, right? Yes. So your flight tickets, a hotel room being booked on a certain date, right? All of these are unique instances. And outside of the art form, one of the more real world instance that I can quickly talk about is the Santa Clara DMV is working with Tezos to issue car titles as NFTs, right? The thing is that your car title can be transferred, NFT can still be transferred from one person to another, right? And again, there can only be one title in existence at any time for a car. So perfect use case for NFTs. This one is the art form, right, where you have NFTs that could be used in the metaverse. It's not just NFTs. Even when you think about NPCs, we have already been seeing that, right? NPCs get a new life form, and now instead of just having that same conversation with the NPC every time, you get a net new experience. A non-playable character in games. You, you like the guy, a vendor who tells you that you have to go there every time, and if you fail that level and come back again, that's the only thing the guy is going to tell you, right? That's how they are programmed. Finally, you could actually enhance prediction models in DeFi. So decentralized finance. Earlier we spoke about speculation, right? And of course with AI, for people who are trading on the cryptocurrency side of it, you now have a lot of AI models being used for prediction. So remember, that is predictive modeling, but where Gen AI helps out is it's taking those predictions and helping simplify it for the traders. So now you understand why it is making certain decisions and why it's asking you to change your strategy in a certain way. So that is what Gen AI is doing. So moving on, let's talk about the dangers of generative AI, especially in terms of deep fake. Yeah, we know the world is at war. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has not yet ended, and we're already looking at Hamas versus Israel. And as sad as it is, you have already seen posts on social media, misinformation being passed around left, right, and center. You'll have images from previous wars being shared by people saying that this is from the current war. People completely misinterpreting what's being said. A lot of fake information flowing around. Imagine what you can do with deepfake. You could actually have, like, especially in the upcoming elections, I am going to keep an eye out for this and how we combat it. Because you could have so many videos made of Trump or Biden or whoever are the representatives who are going to be running for presidency, making them say things that they have never said. So here's a quick video. And let's see.
In an age of unprecedented technological progress, a new frontier has emerged in the form of generative AI. While these advancements hold immense promise, they also introduce complex challenges. One of the most disconcerting threats is the rise of deep fakes. Imagine a video so realistic, it can convince you that a world leader has declared war. Or a voice clone so accurate, it can fool you into believing a loved one is in trouble. This isn't the plot of a science fiction film. It's a reality we're fast approaching with generative AI. Deep fakes, powered by generative AI, can create hyper-realistic audio, video, and even text content. They have the potential to manipulate public opinion, spread disinformation, and even commit fraud. And as AI technologies continue to evolve, the power and accessibility of deepfakes will only increase. They can be used nefariously by anyone from anonymous internet trolls to hostile nation-states. But there is hope. By raising awareness, encouraging critical thinking, and supporting the development of detection technologies, we can mitigate the risks. As we stand on the brink of this new era, we must remain vigilant and proactive. Let's embrace the advancements of generative AI and the next generation of AI technologies, but let's do so with our eyes wide open.
This video was created using AI. Right? Yeah, she's a fake.
By design.
But if you think about it, watching it on big screen, imagine if we could do that easily. The expressions, the way she spoke.
It's just gonna get better right with time.
It's going to get better. And now you have full body expressions coming out, right? If you actually paid attention, it wasn't just her lip sync, right? And she was also blinking, but even her body, upper body, was moving a little bit. So it just makes you feel like, oh, this is real. Of course, you could see that there was a video in the background and stuff. So there was editing, you could make that out. But imagine this is just going to keep becoming better. And this was using some free program.
Make that.
Yeah, I mean, I did not make the program. I made the video though, right? And the script was from ChatGPT. See? No, it wasn't my voice either. The voice was also AI voice because now you have neural voices which have those tones and inflections. So you probably have heard news where there was a person, a grandparent, and they got a phone call from their grandchild that they are they met with an accident and they were asking them to transfer money. And thankfully, they asked the parents, and they were saying that how do we send the money, and they were like, "What are you doing?" They actually used deep fake to clone the voice of the grandchild, right? So now that can easily be done. There are good and bad things. Like imagine, you have singers from the past who are dead. You could use that to train, and now you can have new music and songs in their voice, which is nice. But at the same time, you have people using it for nefarious intents, and that results in an issue. So, how can Web3 help combat that? A lot of people are already working on immutable proof of origin. So, content can be tagged. You already have things like digital fingerprinting, etc., within Adobe Suite. But what you could do is, especially on social media, etc., content that comes out, there could be a decentralized tag from blockchain. Why on chain? A, that tag remains immutable. So if that file changes, that tag will no longer be valid, right? So you should be able to check the integrity of the file. Why decentralized? Because it is transparent. Anytime it is with a central entity, you do not know whether that data is being mutated or not. But blockchain, a decentralized system, and there are various decentralized technologies, blockchain is one of them. It provides you a way to say with certainty that this wasn't tampered with. Quantum computing is coming around, which could pose a threat to cryptography, which is the underlying strength of blockchain. However, you also have quantum resistant blockchains coming up. So the two things, cryptography field will also evolve as the other fields evolve. Finally, decentralized. Anytime you post something, if you are posting it, it gets tagged, right? And this becomes even more important when you have public celebrities, public figures posting information out. So if you can verify that yes, this was posted, this is coming from the White House, right? That is important. Um, Remember, you have companies like Netflix, etc., signing deals with actors and actresses to use their likeness, right? Their NIL, even sports figures. So now, how do you know what was creative leeway, like company like Netflix that produced content versus what was it that they actually said, right? These things are going to help. Where is it actually originating from? DID, decentralized identity verification, this particular use case is not just for combating Gen AI problems, but it's also a very valid use case in countries where you actually do not have an easy way to get IDs. And these are mostly countries in areas like Africa, etc. Right? So we could actually have our driver's license, passports, etc., stored securely on chain. There are aspects of blockchain which also provide you with transparency but secure your data, like you have zero knowledge and other protocols being used, where I will be able to see that this driver license belongs to you, but I won't be able to see the content of the driver's license unless you assign me access to it. And when you're assigning me access, it's not forever because you'll also have the capability to revoke it. So those things are very powerful. And finally, again, ethical AI governance. You could actually have DAOs set up to govern AI models. If the AI models need to be updated, those could actually be decisions made by the DAOs, right? And this provides like a very complementary solution, because as AI grows, we are going to be faced with the problem of who is responsible for the AI messing up, right? And there's going to be a lot of finger pointing. It's going to be the same thing that happened in 2000s when companies said that, hey, we made a boo-boo in the financial statements. We didn't know. It was, one of the 100 people working at our company that did it. So that's when the Sarbanes-Oxley law came into being, where they said the CEO and the CFO have to sign off on the financial statements. So if this is wrong, then you guys are going to jail. And guess what? The financial frauds reduced by over 90%. All right. So now we'll just quickly go through the other couple of use cases, and we'll call it a day. So that way, you'll know where else could be used with. So Web3 and AI in healthcare. Clinical trials, Web3 will allow people to give consent to use their data, but also the transparency allows you to see where exactly is your data being used. Today, when you go into your doctor's office and the doctor says that, hey, you can sign up for a clinical trial or you just give the data, you actually do not know that beyond that, where is the data being used. But with this, you'll be able to you will be able to do that. And besides that, also the integrity of the data. That is also important. Again, on blockchain, data is immutable, right? So the information that is being passed on, that integrity is enabled. With AI and Web3, mental health becomes a big use case for both of these sectors. A lot of the times, even people who seemingly seem jolly and merry could be battling a lot of mental challenges. And people who are even talkative are sometimes, or a lot of times, shy to be vulnerable in front of others, right? Now, AI can actually help become the person that you want to talk to, because it's not a real person. But at the same time, by talking about things like um, proof of origin that we spoke of, it also allows you to stop people with the wrong intentions from using AI to attack you. What I mean by that is, we already know that there are a lot of pedophiles who use social media, right, to prowl and attack kids. And the DID that we spoke about, the proof of origin that we spoke of, can provide that security. So again, notice how we are not talking about the speculative aspect of Web3, but really talking about Web3 and AI as a technology to build the next generation of interconnected apps on. Finally, or this is the second last slide, but Web3 and AI in agriculture. So with AI, you can actually check uh, the quality of your crops, what the weather is going to be like. AI can actually predict that this is what the weather, etc., is going to be like. So these are the crops that you should be planting, and this is how you can mix and match plants and plant them. How can Web3 help? A supply chain that is built on Web3 can eliminate a lot of the middlemen, provide transparency in pricing, and actually get the farmers in their hands what they need to get. A lot of us know about countries like India or even Mexico, etc., right? Where the farmers are the ones who are not making enough money. It's actually the middlemen who end up making most of the money. So if that thing was completely tracked, if the entire supply chain was on chain, you'll see what was a particular crop procured for, right? And what was it finally being sold for? And this is not just for raw materials. As you actually use that and you take it through processing, you can track all of it. Today, a lot of this tracking is in place through centralized systems, but it is in place for the marijuana industry, right? Because that industry is highly regulated and all of this is being tracked. But in the regular agriculture industry, you do not know about all of this information. Putting that on chain provides transparency, but more importantly, it provides a system on which this entire supply chain can be managed. Because it's easy to say eliminate the middlemen, but if you're eliminating them, what fills in the gap? And the existing Web3 systems, ledger, right? Blockchain is a ledger. It is meant to be a system of record. So it comes out of the box with tools to enable such supply chains to be managed on chain. And finally, you have education. Couple of different things, credentials, we already spoke about DIDs, etc., right? But it's also beyond that. If you've completed a course, instead of just having a certificate, you actually have a verified credential on chain. So that fraud becomes lesser. In US, it's not as evident, but in other growing nations where everything is on paper, you actually sometimes you get degrees from people who have never been to college, right? And with on-chain identity, you're able to do that because you can have everything, all of their verification on-chain. We also have a lot of X to earn systems that are on chain. One of them is learn to earn. And the learn to earn system is pretty attractive because one of the things is, even though we talk about, when we spoke about cryptocurrencies, we spoke about the hype, we spoke about the speculation. But if you think about it, Bitcoin, Ethereum, just all of that speculative hype has added over $1 trillion to the world's economy through a stream that never existed before cryptocurrencies came into play. Even when you think about the US dollar or most of the world's currencies today, very few of them are actually backed by physical assets like gold. US long gave up on the gold standard. So the only thing that really keeps the US dollar stable is the fact that it is backed by the US government. US government has great military strength, and the US dollar is used as a trading standard across the globe. So if the dollar collapses, the entire global economy collapses, which is why US was able to inject $3 trillion and still US dollar didn't really fluctuate as much. I mean, when we go to buy our eggs and milk, we know it did, but on a global scale, they're still there. So whenever it comes to currencies, it's the belief in a currency. If you and I think that this currency holds certain value and we transact using that, we could get somewhere. So with learn and earn, especially in the developing nations, right, where people need to be incentivized to learn because what's at the top of their mind is surviving and how to put meal on their table for the next meal that they have to have. In such cases, if you're able to incentivize them for learning, and yes, it becomes hard to withdraw dollars from your bank, give it to them. But with cryptocurrency, you can actually create a net new currency. And if it holds its value, you are literally creating an income stream and rewarding people for what they should be doing versus what they have to do because they don't have food to eat. And with that, we conclude this. I'm Sonia. Thank you again, wonderful people, for listening to all of this.